The show revolves around a time traveler named the Doctor and his new companion, Rose Tyler. In the opening scene, he asks her where she wants to go for her maiden voyage aboard the TARDIS, a spaceship that can traverse through time and space. Rose expresses her desire to travel forward in time, precisely 1 century into the future. The Doctor finds the request a bit odd, but nonetheless, he activates his time machine. The next second, they both find themselves in the 22nd century, which doesn't seem very interesting. Hence, the two have a change of heart and decide to embark on a further future journey, leading them to arrive in the year 12,005, the era of the New Roman Empire. However, Rose is skeptical of the Doctor's explanations, so in an effort to impress her, he takes her further to a space station orbiting Earth 5 billion years into the future. 5 billion? As they look on in wonder, they witness the sun beginning to expand, prompting the Doctor to utter the words, "Welcome to the end of the world." The Doctor goes on to explain that humanity has left Earth a long time ago, and the planet has been taken over by the National Trust, who uses gravity satellites to hold back the sun's effects. However, the funds for this are dwindling, and according to him, the Earth will eventually be consumed by the sun. The wealthiest and most powerful beings in the universe will witness the world's demise, which the Doctor claims will occur in around half an hour. Despite his knowledge of the situation, the Doctor appears to have no intention of saving the planet. In addition, he informs Rose that the space station they are on is equipped with automated systems and manned by blue-skinned humanoids. After a brief period, the duo stumbles upon an extraterrestrial being with blue skin named Steward, who is responsible for managing Platform 1 within the space station. When Steward inquires about the duo's identities, the Doctor shows a special piece of psychic paper, convincing Steward that they are invited guests. Once he gets inside, the Doctor reveals the secret behind the psychic paper, explaining that it has the power to influence how people see things according to his will. Afterwards, the remaining invitees begin to arrive, each with their own unique characteristics and peculiarities. First to arrive is Mox of Balhoun, a diminutive being, followed by the Face of Bo, a living entity with a distinct appearance. The group is then joined by a contingent of humanoid trees from the Forest of Cheem, and a group of hooded aliens called the Adherents of the Repeated Meme. Lastly, Cassandra, the last living human, enters the scene. Her appearance is quite unusual, as she turns out to be a piece of stretched out skin that has been mounted onto a frame with a brain jar connected to it. It appears that her skin needs constant moisturization from her attendants to ensure that she remains hydrated. Once all of the guests have arrived, they begin to exchange gifts with one another. Jabe of the Forest of Cheem offers the Doctor a cutting taken from her grandfather, which he gratefully accepts. In return, the Doctor presents her with the gift of air from his lungs. The Mox provides the Doctor with a gift of bodily saliva, while the Adherents of the Repeated Meme distribute gifts of peace in the form of metal spheres. I'd have preferred sad Keanu, but thanks anyways, guys. Cassandra, being the last to present her gift, hands over an ostrich egg and an ancient Earth iPod. The iPod plays classical music, which proves to be overwhelming for Rose, who eventually leaves the hall. In the next scene, as Rose wanders around the station, she comes across a plumber named Ruffalo, who is in the midst of investigating a blockage. Amidst the conversation, Rose suddenly feels a sense of vulnerability and fear, realizing how far she is from her home with a person she does not know. Concerned about her safety, she hastily departs, leaving Ruffalo to continue with her work. While examining the ducts, Ruffalo spots a group of small spider-like robots that quickly grab hold of her and drag her inside. It becomes apparent that these robots are emerging from the metal spheres that were gifted to the guests by the Adherents of the Repeated Meme. They soon infiltrate the entire station, sabotaging its systems. Elsewhere, the Doctor finds Rose sitting alone in a quiet room. Upon seeing him, she immediately asks about his origins and where he comes from. However, the Doctor simply brushes off her inquiry, leaving her feeling somewhat bewildered and perplexed. In an attempt to ease Rose's concerns and provide her with some comfort, the Doctor alters her mobile phone, allowing her to call her mother 5 billion years in the past. 5 billion! Her mood instantly lifts as she chats with her mother on the phone. The Doctor then playfully mentions that if Rose thinks her phone call was amazing, she should wait to see the bill. At the same time, a tremor shakes the station, and the Doctor nervously explains that it was not supposed to happen. On the other hand, Steward is in the process of examining the reason behind the unanticipated shaking movement. As he delves into his investigation, a spider-like robot shows up and alters the positioning of the solar filter within his chamber. As a consequence, Steward becomes vulnerable to the direct, scorching heat emanating from the sun's rays, which is more than 450 Celsius. This burns him to a crisp in a matter of seconds. "Steward, you poor bastard." Following the tremor, the doctor also embarks on a quest to investigate its cause, and Jabe offers to guide him to the maintenance corridors. Until they return, Rose decides to approach Cassandra and uncover more about her. During their conversation, Cassandra discloses that she has undergone a staggering 708 cosmetic procedures and considers herself to be the only remaining pure human. She believes that the remaining are intermingled with other species and calls them mongrels. This offensive remark towards humanity prompts Rose to express her disgust towards Cassandra and storm away, abandoning the conversation. However, the adherents soon follow her, and upon reaching an empty corridor, their leader violently strikes her on the head, rendering her unconscious before dragging her away. Elsewhere, Jabe takes the doctor towards the innermost parts of the space station. As they descend deeper and deeper, they stumble upon one of the enigmatic spiders. Jabe manages to trap it with her elongated, vine-like appendage, but they are still at a loss as to why the spider is there and what its purpose is. A few moments later, Rose regains her consciousness, only to find herself trapped in a room where the sun filter is slowly being lowered. She cries out for help, and fortunately, the doctor hears her pleas. He somehow manages to raise the sun filter, but is still unable to unlock the door to free her. As a result, he decides to release the spider robot in hopes of locating its controller. To everyone's surprise, it scurries over to the adherents of the repeated meme. However, the doctor is aware that the meme is just a decoy, so he exposes them as robots, making them collapse to the ground. After this, he once again deploys the spider robot to track down the source of the control, which leads him to Cassandra. This finally reveals that she is the mastermind behind the entire scheme. Cassandra, who is now exposed, orders her attendants to hold the others at bay, while warning them that the moisturizer guns have the potential to shoot acid. She reveals that her numerous and costly cosmetic procedures have left her financially depleted, and she was hoping to create a hostage situation where she could pretend to be one of the victims, and later seek a compensation. But now, with everything out in the open, Cassandra decides to let everyone burn, as the shares she holds in rival companies of the guests will skyrocket in value. Following this, she orders the spider robots to deactivate the force field that has been protecting the space station. She then employs a teleportation device to transport herself as well as her attendants away, leaving the others to fend for themselves. With only a few minutes remaining before the sun destroys the Earth and the space station, the doctor and Jabe hurry back to the air conditioning chamber to restore the computer systems. Unfortunately, the restore switch is located at the far end of a platform that is obstructed by enormous rotating fans. Jabe bravely steps forward to hold down the switch that slows the fans, despite the doctor's concerns that the rising heat will set her wooden body ablaze. Jabe, however, remains resolute in her determination in order to save the people inside the station. Meanwhile, the doctor rushes towards the other side of the platform, making it almost to the end, but unfortunately, Jabe catches fire and burns. As a result, the fan speeds up, making it even more difficult for the doctor to make his way through. Nonetheless, he has no other option but to concentrate and push on, closing his eyes and focusing his mind on the task at hand. Finally, he crosses the last fan, squeezes through it, and promptly pushes the reset switch. The force fields immediately go up around the space station, just as the Earth explodes into cinders. After the catastrophic event, the station's self-repairing systems get activated. Several of the guests are now incinerated as the sun's rays burst through the cracks in the windows. Meanwhile, the doctor finds Cassandra's teleportation feed inside the ostrich egg and reverses it to bring her back. However, she remains arrogant and mocks him, stating that he is powerless against her. Nevertheless, the doctor calmly reveals that he only transported Cassandra and not her moisturizing attendants. And as the heat intensifies, Cassandra starts to dry out, causing her to beg for mercy. Rose asks the doctor to save her, but he responds coldly, stating that everything has its time and must come to an end. Ooh, ice cold, Doc. Eventually, Cassandra's skin stretches and tears apart, leading to her innards exploding and leaving behind only her brain tank and an empty frame. The intense situation is now under control, but Rose feels a sense of sadness as she realizes that in the midst of all the dangers, the destruction of Earth had gone unnoticed by anyone. The doctor then decides to take her back to the present time in his TARDIS. Later, we see the doctor and Rose standing among the people on Earth. During this, he shares a bit of wisdom with her. He observes observes that human beings tend to take things for granted and assume that everything is permanent, when in reality, nothing lasts forever. The Doctor then discloses that his home planet was also destroyed in a war, much like Earth. He sadly admits that he is the last survivor of the Time Lords, feeling an immense burden of loneliness. Hearing this, Rose comforts him, assuring him that he is not alone because she will always be by his side. In the last scene, the two head to enjoy some chips, as they believe that they have only 5 billion years before the shops close. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.